Hi, atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where on this Remembrance Day Sunday or Veterans Day weekend, depending on which country you're from, we bend our knees and doff our hats in honor of the service and the sacrifice of all the men who gave us our inheritance of freedom. And for those few precious centenarian World War II veterans who remain alive among us, please know you are the reason why this reporter wears this 48-star flag on his shoulder. And please be assured that for as long as this program exists, and as long as this reporter has breath in his lungs, your exploits and your example shall never be forgotten by your succeeding generations. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all ships at sea. Welcome to the Blast Radius. Thanks ever so much for joining us tonight. Coming up on the worst people in the whole wide world weekly update. The Muslim overlords of the city of Londonistan grudgingly permit the King of England to hold the traditional Remembrance Day ceremony. Hakeem Jeffries boldly declares that the Democrats are totally going to own the midterm elections next year. New York City elects a communist-adjacent Muslim mayor and then asks, how the hell did we just elect a communist-adjacent Muslim mayor? Kim Kardashian, fresh on the heels of publicly demonstrating that she is dumb enough to be an Apollo denier, publicly demonstrates that she is also too dumb to pass the California bar exam. Are these two things related? Spoiler alert, yes, they probably are. Germans report that they are deathly afraid to venture out in public in their own country. But first, and on a perhaps not unrelated note, the son of the co-founder of Hamas has a warning for the woke liberal denizens of the Western world's biggest metropolises. While you're on that subject, is it metropolises or metropoli? I feel like it should be metropoli, but the AI robot machine informs me it's actually metropolises, and I've had just about all I can take of AI robot machines for 1 week. And if you want me to elaborate on why that is, ask me for details during the main body of the show, because I do, in fact, have lots of details. More details, in fact, than you could ever want. My co-host knows what I'm talking about. In fact, you just heard one of the quotes just now. I started off by asking ChatGPT to give me an angry Biden speech because I wanted to see how closely it would match up with the angry Biden speech that the real Joe Biden gave the other day. But that's not important now. The important thing is that the son of the co-founder of Hamas says we should stop being a bunch of goddamn fools. And he is not wrong. Mossab Hassan Youssef, son of Sheikh Hassan Youssef, says the election of Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York City suggests more than just a local shift. It signals a coordinated takeover of the city government by an alliance of radical woke socialists and stealth Islamic networks, to which he refers as the Red-Green Alliance. Mr. Youssef says, quote, Mamdani identifies as a socialist, a communist rebranded, while embracing Islamist ideology. These twin ideologies represent catastrophic failures wherever they have been implemented, end quote. And he ain't wrong. It's been a point of some curiosity for quite some time how two philosophies that seem so utterly incompatible on just about every level can add up to a marriage of convenience that results in a victory in a mayoral race in the biggest city in the United States. Is there anything about woke leftism that aligns with Muslim fundamentalism? Not from where this reporter is sitting, but I guess that doesn't matter. It seems to me like a good time to have noticed this problem might have been prior to the primary, when the New York City Democrats had every opportunity to survey the landscape and say, gosh, it looks like we've got one candidate who's a 33-year-old Muslim Marxist immigrant Nepo baby, and another candidate who is the disgraced former governor that killed everybody's parents and then got thrown out of office for playing grab ass with all of his female staffers. Mightn't it behoove us, as the leaders of the party, to insert a third candidate who's less terrible than the other two? But alas, I guess that sort of thinking is just too much to ask from the New York City Democrat Party. And now they get to have a Marxist mayor who is such an ignorant dumbass, he doesn't even realize it when he is directly quoting Karl Marx after just claiming that he's not a Marxist. So best of luck, New York City. I'm sure it's all going to work out great. And on that note, it is time to check in with our very good friends across the pond in the Islamic Republic of Britannistan, where the Islamic authorities in the capital city were nice enough to take a one-weekend pause in their normal pro-Hamas demonstrations so that King Charles III can pretend he is really still their head of state and to go lay a wreath at the cenotaph in honor of the British dead in the two world wars. And this takes place during a week when, if you watched Curmudgeon's Corner on Thursday, and of course you did, you already know that Alec Penstone, probably the most highly decorated Royal Navy veteran from the War of 1939 to 45 who remains living, went on the ITV morning show and said nothing that he and his generation did back then really matters because their children and their grandchildren have cocked everything up so very badly since then. The king, meanwhile, fresh off a week in which he declared that his little brother is no longer a duke, or an earl, or a baron, or a knight, nor even a prince, was heard to wonder out loud, when I said I wanted to be the defender of all the faiths and not just the faith of which I am supposed to be the supreme head, I felt like the consequences weren't going to be quite as immediate as they have been. It's almost like I was just talking out my ass back then and not thinking the thing through all the way. Blast it. These things were so much easier back when Mummy was still alive. Meanwhile, back in Washington, with the government shut down, now nearly old enough that it can get a driver's license, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries put on his happy face, which looks exactly the same as his miserable face, and declared on all of the Sunday morning shows today that the Democrats are totally going to win the majority in next year's midterm elections. And Hakeem? May I call you Hakeem? Or should I call you Sombrero Man? Doesn't matter. Either way, your prognostication of a victory relies on a fairly big assumption, and it's the assumption that there is not going to be a new census in 2026. As you know, President Trump is on the record as being very desirous of conducting a new census in 2026, and I think you know why that is. It's because you guys, the Democrats, packed millions of illegal aliens into the country, and then you got them settled in the big Democrat-controlled cities, then you got them counted in the census, and boom, then you had a fake artificial cushion of around 25 safe Democrat seats in the House of Representatives. But as you also know, around 1.75 million illegal aliens have self-deported since the start of this year, and another several 100,000 have been forcibly removed by federal immigration authorities. So what does the arithmetic tell us? The arithmetic tells us if there's a new census in 2026, there will be upwards of 2 million illegal aliens no longer being counted in it. That means 4 to 5 of your artificially generated safe Democrat House seats are no longer going to exist. I know you guys think you had a good week. You won a few governorships that you were supposed to win. You won a referendum to gerrymander California above and beyond the extent to which it was already gerrymandered within an inch of its natural-born life. And you know what? Let's briefly digress on that topic, shall we? The governor of California, a creature named Gavin Newsom, who grew up as a poor black kid hustling on the mean streets of Napa Valley, says we needed to do Prop 50 in order to protect democracy against Trump something. Like it matters anyway. The point being, what does the arithmetic tell us? The arithmetic tells us 6.2 million Californians voted for Donald Trump last year. It also tells us California has more Trump voters in it than any other state in the union. 40% of the voters in the state. So what I'm looking for from you, Gavin, is an explanation for how we are defending democracy by rigging the congressional districts so that Democrats hold 95% of the House seats in a state where 40% of the population voted for the other guy. And if we had a functioning press, maybe you might have to answer that question, but we don't, so you won't. Just like you'll never be confronted with any questions about how your claims of being a poor working-class black kid who grew up eating Wonder Bread and mac and cheese hustling in these streets comport with the actual reality of your life story, in which you came of age in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in North America as the son of an oil company lawyer, going to all the most exclusive private schools, being gifted a brand new BMW on your 16th birthday, owning your own winery when you were 25. I mean, who didn't own their own winery when they were 25? Am I right? But maybe it was just an innocent oversight. Maybe when you talked about eating Wonder Bread and mac and cheese, you just innocently forgot to include the part where you had to search through the whole mansion looking for one of the Latina domestic servants to come prepare it for you. Maria? Guadalupe? You guys aren't supposed to both take smoke breaks at the same time. Didn't Father tell you the rules? Are we the only country in the history of the world where rich people have to pretend they grew up poor because poverty somehow confers more moral credibility? Yes. Yes, we are. Does that make a damn bit of sense? No, it does not. But it doesn't matter anyway, because you guys better wish on every lucky star you have got that your party apparatchik judges succeed in preventing a new census from being taken next year, because if that census happens, you guys are so incredibly screwed. You will never have a majority ever again. And best of luck with trying to stop it, because what does the letter of the law say? It says there has to be a census every 10 years, but is there any statutory prohibition on taking a census more often than that? There is not. So again, very best of luck. Meanwhile, did you know Kim Kardashian's been studying law for the last 6 years in hopes of passing the California bar exam? Yeah, me either. But she's just made her first attempt, and she reports that she failed spectacularly, and who could have guessed? I mean, far be it for this reporter to question the intellectual acumen of a woman who first gained public notoriety because her dad was O.J. Simpson's personal lawyer and she appeared in a sex tape with some rapper. It seems quaint somehow, almost, that 20 years ago you could actually become a celebrity by making a sex tape and then leaking it on purpose. and not only become a celebrity in your own right, but propel your whole stupid idiot family to public notoriety. I guess, if nothing else, she was ahead of her time in that regard. Why does Kim Kardashian want to be an attorney at law? Unclear. Maybe she is embarrassed to have become rich and famous despite having no evident skills or talents whatsoever. Or alternatively, maybe she watched She-Hulk Attorney at Law and now she thinks passing the bar exam means you can turn into a giant green-skinned rage monster whenever you want. And then the giant green-skinned rage monster can make a sex tape with some rapper, and that will buy you and your whole family another 20 years of unwarranted celebrity. But no, apparently our girl Kim, who is sufficiently stupid and credulous to have publicly come out last week as an Apollo denier, really thinks she is going to be a lawyer. And she freely admits to making very heavy use of ChatGPT for her legal studies. Now look, I'm just a simple man. I've got no post-nominal letters after my name, no fancy book learning of which to speak. However, I do feel very strongly that if you are sufficiently stupid and credulous to say in public that Apollo 11 never happened, you are probably not ideally suited to a career as a practicing attorney. And more importantly, if ChatGPT's capabilities are sufficiently advanced now that it can actually drag someone as stupid as Kim Kardashian across the finish line to successfully passing the bar exam, I feel like we should give the law degree to the robot and not the middle-aged reality TV star who probably reads the instructions on the shampoo bottle when she is washing her hair. Now that I have given you all of that to ponder, I think I am just about finished with my exertions here. This has been the WPWWWWU for the 9th of November 2025. Many thanks for your kind attention, and more importantly, you serve. Thank you for your service. I now transmit you into the custody of my distinguished colleague, your illustrious co-host, the one and only, your friend and mine, Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.